We've had a bit further look into the items raised by eagle-eyed Councillor Marr and his mathematician skills. Well done. Mr. CE, would you like to speak?
Yeah, look, councillors, a good point's been raised, and my recommendation is we leave this to lay on the table to the next meeting. That might also give us a bit of an opportunity to investigate some of the other funding sources a bit more in that time as well. So, Dave, in terms of the procedural motion.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to withdraw the move. While it's not seconded, I'm happy to withdraw that resolution that I've put up.
Let's get the, yep. So we'll withdraw that there. Is that how you want to do it?
So based on Councillor Smith's feedback, we will not proceed with the motion that was on the table. And I suggest that we receive the report and that the item being discussed be adjourned to the next meeting of council, which is in October 2023. So effectively, we'll leave this item to lie on the table, and another report will come to council next month with further details.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to move that and would ask that instead of it being 100% adult fares, that the proportion of last year looked at and take children's fares into account as well, because if we rely entirely on adult fares, we're still short of budget.
Would you like that added to the resolution, or
no? That's an aside.
I think, Dave, we've got that, and we'll have another thorough look at it.
Right. All right. So we've got a mover in Councillor Smith, a second in Councillor Nicol. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right. We'll now move on to 7.3. This is on page 67. This is the calendar of meetings for 2024. She's a colorful array. Got a mover in Councillor Strange, a second in Councillor Hodge.
Can I ask that they populate the calendar sooner than later?
Yes.
Because some of us have got a lot more other work besides council. So
Yeah.
if you can populate 2024 so we know where we sit, it'd be great.
Yes.
Certainly. What we can do is we'll populate the meetings that are confirmed. That our co-governance partners haven't yet confirmed those, so we'll leave those for now, but we'll get the other items. Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Just noting, sorry, just making sure we have our mics on for the recordings in the live stream. Just Councillor Hodge asking for these meeting dates to be populated in councillor calendars sooner rather than later, noting that some of these meetings with that are joint committees have not yet been confirmed, and also just noting for councillors that obviously there may be tweaks as we go forward, but always good to have a starter. So we've got a mover in Councillor Strange, second in Councillor Hodge. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, we are now on item 7.4. This is page 73. The Wharekawa Coast 2120 Draft Community Plan. And we've got Alejandro Cifuentes joining us. Alejandro is the team leader for policy implementation.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The paper that you have is in between pages 73 and 77 of your agenda packs. And it is a recommendation to receive and endorse the consultation draft community plan for the Wharekawa Coast adaptation plan. This recommendation follows the 30th of August workshop where we got Councillor Steering to agree to continue to participate, being guided by appointment of ward councillors and having a very clear direction to relay a message of roles and responsibilities and setting clear expectations about meeting the cost for different actions in the long term for each of the community actions. On the 6th of September strategy and policy meeting, the council set principles for the continued participation of Waikato Regional Council in adaptation planning and received the community panel recommendations that was prepared as part of the Wharekawa Coast community plan. Following that meeting, the Joint Working Party, which is the governance group of members from Waikato District, Haraka District, Waikato Regional Council, and iwi, met to discuss the draft wording of the plan and to discuss what was going to be its content. And as part of the discussions that council had, our councilors tabled a recommendation to include wording around the clarity of the roles and responsibilities and the expectations around meeting the cost for different actions. So that is now reflected in the second page of the attachment, which is essentially the community plan. It's a bit of a kind of long wording to read, but there's a few things to notice, and is that there's a recognition of additional sources of funding that could come from central government, but then is also the very clear message that where a council is identified as a lead agency does not necessarily mean that the action will take place or will be fully funded for council. It will need to go through long-term processes, long-term plan processes under the local. With that, I'm happy to take questions through you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Nicol?
Yep, no, and noting I'm the co-chair of this joint working party as a trinium, and really appreciated Warren and Ben and the scrutiny that we've given it through that joint working party from our side. The process obviously started a fair bit earlier, and it's been really good through the multiple iterations of looking at how to finalise this draft community plan to get everyone's input. I suppose at this point, it's just that we ask the community's feedback, because when this process started, the community's apparently changed quite a bit to what it is now. It'd be really good to hear from the people, and there is an open day scheduled for the 7th of October in the morning in the for community drop-in session to support this as well. So if this council's happy alongside Waikato District Council and Hauraki District Council to let the community have their say on what they think of this piece of work, that'd be really great. So yeah, like Alejandro explained, and as you would have all heard when you attended the workshop on this topic, Ben raised some good points around making sure that it's really clear around the financing of anything going forward. That is right up front in the document. Just want to note that the Discoverer file of the attachment we cannot open. And so in future, when you do an attachment, we really do need that to be in the intranet or some other format. But I have read it, several times now, and I'm really happy with where it's landed. So I'd be happy to move that one, and happy to field questions as well as Alejandro.
Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Oh, it was simply to say that if you look at item 14E, the Strategy and Policy Committee is aware that there are a number of these adaptation things coming forward. We're looking at one shortly for Port Waikato, and that it would need to be made clear that while we do the community consultation, we don't necessarily guarantee funding, or that that it may be a targeted rate. And so that's item E, acknowledgement that preferred community options will have associated costs. Council participation does not indicate an agreement to fund interventions necessary. And it's a basic principle, because these are going to keep coming up. And we're still not sure what's going to happen with the Climate Adaptation Act. So with those, and working with Jen and Warren, we've put forward that in the front of the Wharekawa plan, just letting them know that all the things that are there may require a targeted rate, that's all. So
Thanks
I'm
for
happy to
that.
second that.
Thanks for that. Councillor Mara?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And just echo what both Jen and Ben have said. This was a good process, and thank you, Council, for getting around that workshop. It was certainly critical to this process, and bringing up those principles which will help guide communities as we move forward, because as been alluded to, we are going to get a number of these from around our region as we move forward with adaptation and that sort of thing, coastally wise. So I'm more than happy to carry on supporting this. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Thank you for those of you who have been involved in this at a much deeper level than the rest of us, providing that level of surety around the principles under which we're engaging with these communities. Because as you all have raised, this will become a common conversation, especially given the significant level of coastal area we have here in the Waikato region. All right, any other comments, any other questions? If not, we've got a mover in Councillor Nicola and a second in Councillor Dunbar Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, we now go on to item 7.5. This is on page 78. This is the request for participation in the Waikato District Council Adaptive Management Planning. Alejandro, part 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So indeed, it is an invitation letter from the Waikato District Council Mayor Jackie Church dated 1st of August 2023. Is an invitation for councillor participation at the governance level for the Waikato Adaptive Management Planning Project. So this is a district-wide project looking at adaptation. However, due to the nature of the work in this area, the first communities are indeed coastal communities. So that is Port Waikato and Raglan. That's what is part of the scope that Waikato District has defined so far. Following this letter, staff draft a recommendation for council to appoint 2 councillors and 1 alternate. And according to the principles that we discussed and the input that we received from council on the steering on the 30th of August workshop, we recommend that it be the constituent councillors for the relevant communities as a first preference for appointment to this group.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Just with information of fellow councillors, Councillor Story and myself have spoken personally on this, and I've spoken with Councillor Mahuta earlier this morning. I and Councillor Mahuta are happy to be the members A and B, and Councillor Story is happy to be the alternate C. So I won't nominate myself, but I'm just indicating within the constituent councillors what we've agreed, if you're happy with that.
Councillor Hodge, you happy to move that? We've got a second and Councillor Downard. Any other comments or questions?
All I would ask, Madam Chair, if that is successful, is that the principles as outlined in paragraph 9 of the report are included in the response letter to Waikato District.
Yes.
And highlighting E.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, and perhaps it might be good, I'm just thinking, Mr. CE, it might be good for us to raise those principles at the mayoral forum, just so that there is a general awareness amongst all of our local government partners across the region as to the principles under which we'll operate, or we intend to operate. Sorry?
You, Madam
Oh,
Chair,
sorry.
Director Tracy May is working to relay the information of the principles to the district councils via an official letter as well. So I'll work with her to make sure that our letter is worded correctly. So it doesn't seem
Right.
that we're just hammering on the message too hard,
Perfect.
but yes.
Fantastic. I do have, sorry, I've got
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Dunbar Smith and then Councillor Hughes. Councillor Dunbar Smith?
Oh,
Do you
yeah,
have a
just
comment?
a quick question in terms of that principle of expenditure. I see in the mayor's letter, regional council has already jointly commissioned a 205-page report from Transverse, and just wondered, has that been included as part of the funding, or how much expenditure have we had on that?
So to you, Madam Chair, as council might remember from the information we shared before, any additional, any request from a district council that is outside of the business as usual exercises that we do in terms of investigating hazard information for our very own functions of catchment management and monitoring of the coastline, would be on top of that. So this particular investment that Waikato Regional Council did is within the envelope of business as usual of the existing resilience work program, regional resilience work program.
And do we know the amount?
Not by heart. I apologize. It's Rick Lifting's team running that process.
Right, if we could just for closing off questions, if we can just provide that information after the meeting, that would be great. Just
The
close it off.
to be clear, mentioned the cost of the ECOS report.
That was what your question was, wasn't it?
Transverse report, I believe. I've just been reading on that. Document. Recently commissioned.
Right, but again, what you're saying to us, Alejandro, is that this is where we fund this type of report. It is because it is covering off work that we are required to do
That
with
is correct.
regards to identification of natural hazards.
That is correct. Madam.
Right.
Yes.
All right, Councillor Hughes.
Just a point of clarification, Madam Chair. Point number 3, we've heard from Councillor Smith that he's put his name up, Councillor Mahuta. Do we need to name them in there? I know it's pretty obvious, but I just wanted a point of clarification.
We do have, they're named in the
Oh,
motion.
sorry, I didn't look up there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Cheers.
Yeah. All right, so we've got a mover and Councillor Hodge, a second and Councillor Downard. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, now we will
Thank
move.
you.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. Appreciate the report for the last 2 items. We'll now move into public excluded.
Happy to move that motion, Madam.
We've got
Yep.
Councillor Marr moving, Councillor Cookson second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, we'll give 1 moment to stop the recording and just looking for confirmation